Welcome back. Today we'll talk about Unit 4, How Food Becomes You. We'll start as usual with a brief overview of the assignments. We have a SmartBook assignment and an exam as we do for each unit. The discussion board for this unit is about probiotics, something you may not be too familiar with. Hopefully, a few of you will try some foods that contain probiotics. How about purchasing a jar of kimchi to put on your burger next time you grill out at home? A new type of assignment that we have for Unit 4 is the NutriCalc Plus assessment. You've already completed your NutriCalc personal analysis. Now you get to use that information for an assignment. This one is about my plate. Note that there are 3 types of questions in the assessment: knowledge of my plate, information that you get from your NutriCalc analysis, and an analysis of foods using the NutriCalc intake and spreadsheet capabilities. The other type of assignment for this week is the NutriCalc Plus Journal assignment. I've shown the instructions on the slide. So let's take a look. First, note that you're going to refer to the NutriCalc assignment that you just completed. You're going to go to the My Plate analysis and see how your intake compared to the recommendations. Then you're going to discuss if you need to change your input in any way, and if so, how do you plan to do that? Finally, you're going to comment on any factors that may have impacted your My Plate intake, such as where you were, what food was available to you, how much time you had, how much money you had to spend on food. Now to the requirements. You need to have a journal entry that is at least 100 words. And you need also to honor spelling and grammar rules. I know you all know how to write sentences. I know you know how to use capital letters where necessary. I also know that you know how to spell and so forth. You get the message, right? This isn't a text or a Twitter statement or post. This is an assignment. Enough said, right? Thank you. If you add and discuss a credible reference and you cite that using APA citation style, then you get some extra points for that. And there will be a rubric for this assignment. I will have it posted probably early next week. Any questions you have on either assignment, the new ones that we have for this unit, please send me an email and I will do my very best to answer your questions. Okay, moving on. Let's get into Unit 4 itself. Unit 4 exposes you to what happens to food once we ingest it. If you're a nursing, dietetics, or other science-oriented major, you may find some of this chapter a review. But for others, it may be the first time exploring the digestive system in this much detail. I think it helps to think about something you eat, like a hamburger, and follow what happens to it from the time you eat it at the local McDonald's to the time you make a bathroom visit sometime later. And yes, we need to explore all the parts of the digestive system from the mouth to the anus because there are important digestive activities at every point along the journey. But before we get to digesting food, we need to review how our bodies are physically organized. The cell is the most basic in our bodies. Each of us has approximately 100 trillion cells, give or take a few, depending on our size and our age. In the order of their complexity, with cells being the simplest, cells make up tissue, of which there are several types, such as muscle tissue, for one. Then our organs, think heart, kidneys, liver, are made up of tissues. Our organ systems, like the digestive system, are comprised of organs. And finally, We, as a complete human, are an organism. Quite amazing, isn't it? Moving on to digestion. We first want to distinguish between digestion and absorption. Digestion is the process of breaking down the food, both mechanically, like chewing, and chemically, as in enzymatic action. Absorption is the process in which the nutrients are taken into our bodies. Most of the absorption occurs in the small intestine. This process is very well covered in one of the videos I'll mention next. I've posted 4 detailed videos that were developed by the publisher, and they are really good. These videos explain and demonstrate the various organs of the gastrointestinal tract, known as the GI tract. They also cover how nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine, what an enzyme is, and how it works. Enzymes are pretty amazing and very, very important in the process of digestion. We'll talk about them more in later chapters. When we talk about the organs in the GI tract, we list the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the rectum. Together, they make up 30 feet of digestive tract. But the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas also have very important roles in digestion, even though they are located outside of the GI tract. The liver produces bile that helps with fat digestion. Bile is stored in the gallbladder before being released in the small intestine. The pancreas manufactures and secretes most of the enzymes that help with the digestion of all 3 macronutrients: fat, carbohydrate, and protein. It's important to understand what happens at all points in the digestive system because there are disorders that can occur in the various parts. Some of these you will be familiar with, like constipation and vomiting. Yuck! But there are others, such as irritable bowel syndrome, IBS as it's called, and colorectal cancer. All total, we'll discuss 10 of these disorders. This slide provides a visual overview of the various GI disorders. You can also see this in your text on page 94. Constipation can be classified as a medical condition, especially if it's chronic, meaning the condition is present most of the time. But many of us suffer from constipation at least sometimes if we don't eat enough fiber, if we don't drink enough water, or even if we don't exercise enough. That said, chronic constipation can lead to more serious disorders, such as hemorrhoids or diverticula. Diverticula are small pouches that form in the linings of the large intestine. Sometimes they can burst and become infected. It's important to note that people with diverticula may also be at higher risk for colon cancer. Diarrhea and vomiting are sicknesses that unfortunately we are all familiar with. Most times they are caused by a toxic substance, often viral or bacterial, that our body wants to get rid of quickly. Neither condition is serious unless it continues for a longer period of time. When that happens, it causes dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. That's why many people drink Pedialyte when they've had a bout of vomiting or diarrhea. Pedialyte contains the electrolytes sodium and potassium that need to be replenished. Acid reflux is another common digestive disorder. We may know it as as heartburn. Acid reflux or heartburn. We've all seen the adverts on TV for antacids, but we can control heartburn if we limit foods that are high in fat. Think French fries or onion rings. Tomato-based sauces, think spaghetti and meat sauce, or heaven forbid, chocolate. all of your favorite foods, right? We probably don't have to eliminate them completely from our diet, but easing up on them might be a good idea if we have acid reflux. Smoking and being overweight also can cause acid reflux. Acid reflux that becomes chronic is referred to as GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease. Chronic acid reflux may also mean that there is an underlying disease condition such as esophageal cancer. Overuse of antacids has sometimes been blamed for esophageal cancer not being recognized until it's too late. So it's important to watch for symptoms and see a doctor if necessary. Another disorder, peptic ulcers, can occur in the esophagus, stomach, or upper part of the intestine. Peptic ulcers are often caused by an excess of hydrochloric acid and protein enzymes in the stomach, which can injure the walls of the stomach, esophagus, and small intestine. Other causes include smoking and taking too many NSAIDs, the medication such as Advil or the like. You've probably heard of someone who had their gallbladder removed. It was probably due to the presence of gallstones, which our body makes from cholesterol. The gallbladder stores the bile that is manufactured in the liver. In the absence of a gallbladder, though, the bile from the liver is slowly released into the small intestine. Also, in the absence of a gallbladder, the person may need to limit the fat intake of their diet. Ulcerative colitis, sometimes referred to as UC, and irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, are disorders of the intestines. Ulcerative colitis only affects the large intestine and the rectum, but irritable bowel syndrome affects both the small and large intestines. These conditions are difficult to manage because symptoms vary. However, understanding what foods a person tolerates and management of stress both can play a role in controlling these conditions. The most serious of digestive disorders is cancer, regardless of which area of the GI tract it affects. That said, colorectal cancer is the third leading cause of death from cancer in the U.S. So it's important to be mindful of its signs and symptoms that show here on the slide. It's also important to get a colonoscopy or one of the other diagnostic tests, especially as one gets older. Colorectal cancer is highly treatable if it's caught early. This completes our discussion of the digestive system. As you can see, it is very important to our health because if it's not functioning well, we are unable to process the foods that are sources of energy that we need. We can also see that it is the site of many diseases and disorders. Now we're going to spend a little time talking about our body as an energy-producing machine. Your body is very much like a car engine. This quote comes from your text, and I think the analogy seen between the car engine and the human body is a pretty good one. Think about it. Both require energy to operate. The car uses gasoline or electricity as the source of energy, whereas the body uses food. The car removes waste through its exhaust system, and the body removes waste through the digestive system. The car is cooled by circulating coolant. The body is cooled by production of perspiration. Pretty good analogy, wouldn't you say? In the human body, the sum of all chemical reactions in the cells is called metabolism. Very simply put, metabolism is a combination of catabolism, breakdown, and anabolism, rebuilding. Metabolism is a very complex process, and we won't get into great detail in this course, as that is saved for courses in physiology and biochemistry. For the purposes of this class, we can use this slide as a summary reminding us that food is fuel for us. Fat and glucose provide fuel to make the energy molecule ATP, which powers all the cells in your body. This fact underscores the importance of consuming all the necessary nutrients in the proper amounts throughout life.